There is a book the church cut out of the Bible, and it says, it is a map of where you go the moment you die. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. One line in Genesis, then he is gone, taken, alive, without dying. And the book that carries his name says he was shown the place the dead are held, and he brought the map back. It is a specific map, not clouds, not a lake of fire, not a set of gates with a man at a desk checking names, 4 rooms cut into a mountain in the west, and every soul that has ever died is in one of them right now, waiting. And here is the part that should stop you. The thing that decides which room you are in isn't whether you were good. That is not what Enoch watched. Sort them. 3 of the rooms are dark. 1 has a light in it and a spring of water. And by the end, you are going to know what that light is. Why most souls don't have it. And which of the 4 you are already standing in tonight. The book doesn't warm up to it. Enoch's carried to a mountain and shown the inside. And there were 4 hollow places in it, deep and very smooth. 3 of them were dark and 1 bright, and there was a fountain of water in its midst. 4 hollow places, 3 dark, 1 bright, a spring in the bright one. He asks the angel Raphael what they're for. And the answer is flat, almost clerical. These hollow places had been created for this very purpose, that the spirits of the souls of the dead should assemble therein. To receive them till the day of their judgment, it is a holding place, not heaven, not hell. A waiting room under the earth where every soul's kept until the end. And notice what has already happened when they get there. They're sorted into separate rooms, and the judgment hasn't come yet. So something divides them the second they arrive. Before the trial, before any verdict's handed down, Enoch asks about that too. Why is one separated from another? And the answer he gets is the whole of what you are watching this for. These 3 have been made that the spirits of the dead might be separated, and such a division has been made for the spirits of the righteous, in which there is the bright spring of water. Look at what actually marks the bright room. Not a reward, not a gate you got through. A spring of water, and the people in it get described one way, the righteous. And later, in the same book, here is what the righteous look like. And all the righteous and elect before him shall be strong as fiery lights. They shine. That is the whole description. The souls in the bright chamber are the ones who are themselves a light. It isn't a judge deciding who cleared the bar. It is whether, when the body comes off, there is any light left in you that was yours. And the shoemaker in Germany, 1200 years after this book got buried, said the same thing about the dark rooms in nearly the same words. If any soul breaks itself off from the light and love of God and enters into its own natural desire, then the ground of this darkness will be manifest in it. And this is the hellish fire and the anger of God when it is made manifest. The dark chamber isn't a punishment poured on you from outside. It is your own ground becoming visible once there is nothing left over it. Boehme calls it the hellish fire, and watch the last 3 words. When it is made manifest, nothing new gets added. The dark was always down there under the light. Death just takes the cover off, and the book's exact about who ends up there. Not simply the wicked, a particular kind. Here their spirits shall be set apart in this great pain. Such has been made for the spirits of men who were not righteous, but sinners, who were complete in transgression. Complete in transgression, finished. A soul that carried a dark ground so long, there is nothing left underneath to save. It doesn't get destroyed. It doesn't get raised either. It waits apart in the dark it made. That is the 3 rooms, graded by how far the light went out. Now, a Greek saw the same map 150 years before this book was even written. Plato ends one of his dialogues with a man describing what waits after death, and it is the same structure. A true earth above this one, in a finer light, and under it, hollows and rivers where the dead are kept. The dead are first of all judged according to their deeds, and those who have lived are sent to their several places, judged by how they lived. sorted into places. And Plato grades them exactly the way Enoch does. Those who have only committed venial sins are first purified of them. Those who have committed crimes, great indeed, but not unpardonable, are thrust into Tartarus, but are cast forth at the end of a year. A stretch of purification measured in time. Then release, the lighter faults burned off, the graver ones held longer, the finished ones held without end. He names 4 rivers running through the hollows under the earth: Oceanus, Acheron, Pyriphlegethon, Cocytus, and the souls get distributed among them by what they carried in life. A Greek in Athens and a Hebrew scribe writing under Enoch's name. No contact between them, no shared book, drawing the same underground map with the same grading and the same number of rooms. And the oldest of the 3 saw the mechanism itself. Heraclitus, 500 years before Christ, said the world isn't made of stuff at all. It is made of fire, an ever-living fire, kindled and quenched according to law. Everything that exists is fire, catching and going out by a fixed measure. And then he says, the line this whole tradition turns on, and he says it about you. Man is kindled as a light at night. In like manner, dying he is extinguished, and living he borders upon death while asleep. You are a fire that got lit, a light kindled at night. And whether that light is your own or somebody else's is the only thing the 4 chambers are measuring. There is one soul Enoch stops on in the waiting place, not for how it shines, for a sound it keeps making. This is the spirit which went forth from Abel, whom his brother Cain slew. And he makes his suit against him till his seed is destroyed from the face of the earth. Abel's been dead for thousands of years, and his voice is still going up, still making its case against the brother who killed him. The wound's still open, and Enoch's shown that the record doesn't close at death. The testimony was received before the soul even arrived, already filed. Nothing gets added afterward. That is not a metaphor in this tradition. It is mechanism. The account of what you did stays open, and it crosses over. It becomes the thing that shapes what comes next. Thus does the former life wield a determining influence upon the new. The deeds of the new life are, in a way, caused by the deeds of the old. The harm Cain did to Abel didn't stop when Abel died. It became a force still moving, still owed. The ledger's open. Abel's voice is the sound of an account that never got settled. And this tradition says every act you commit gets entered the same way. Not to punish you, because a thing you did to another person isn't finished just because you stopped thinking about it. So if the bright room is for souls who carry a light of their own, the obvious question is how a soul loses one. And the book answers it straight. This is the part that got it buried. Before the flood, it says, a company of angels called the Watchers came down and taught human beings things they weren't meant to have yet. And Azal taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and bracelets and ornaments, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. Read what the forbidden knowledge actually was. Weapons, sure, but also ornaments, cosmetics, the beautifying of the eyelids, coloring tinctures, the whole art of making a thing look like more than it is. The Watchers taught the human race how to shine with a light that isn't yours, how to put on the appearance of a fire you don't actually have. That is the corruption. Not sin the way you usually hear it. A borrowed light worn over a dark ground, so convincing the soul itself forgets which one it is, and the tradition that carried this book forward names the power behind that gift. Exactly. The same beings under another name. The ones who handed the race a light it hadn't earned, and the whole possibility of going wrong along with it. This may be called the Luciferian spirits. They brought man the power to unfold a free activity in his own consciousness, but brought him at the same time the possibility of error and of evil. The borrowed light works. That is why it is forbidden. It works well enough to carry you through an entire life, mistaking the ornament for the fire. And then the body comes off, and the ornament comes off with it, because it needed a face to sit on. And what is left standing is whichever room you actually belong to the whole time. 3 dark rooms and 1 with a light and a spring of water. All of it comes down to what that fountain is. The souls in the bright chamber shine because the light is theirs, not put on, not borrowed, not needing a body to show it off. And in the oldest reading of this tradition, there is only one source of a light like that. A light that isn't adornment and can't be stripped off because it was never on the outside in the first place. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. The fountain in the bright chamber is the living water. The light in the bright chamber is the one light on the whole map. A soul can't fake, because it isn't a possession. It is a source that moved in. Heraclitus called every man a kindled fire. The only thing the 4 chambers ask is what you are kindled from. Your own brief flame that goes out with the body, or the one that was already burning before you were lit, and doesn't need you to keep it going. Here is the part that should change how you close this video. The 4 chambers aren't somewhere you go later. In this tradition, the sorting isn't done at death. Death only makes visible a room you're already standing in right now. Tonight, you are either a soul with a light of its own or a soul wearing a borrowed one. The mountain in the west just takes the cover off, which means the only thing worth doing with a life is the one thing you can't fake. Trading the ornament for the fire, while you've still got a face to do it with. The borrowed light comes off eventually either way. You can take it off now on purpose or have it stripped off later when there is nothing left to do about what is underneath. Abel's voice is still going up. The ledger is still open and the light in the 4th chamber is still lit and still according to the book they buried, waiting to be carried out. Enoch walked with God and was not, because God took him, the one man in the whole book who didn't have to wait in any of the 4 rooms, because the light he was carrying was already the one that doesn't go out. Per spiritum sanctum revissimus, through the Holy Spirit, we live again. Go gently.